and welcome to Tyra Mini Reads, Reviews, Discusses, Monologues about everything and anything, and that's on period. Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. So today I want to talk about two books that I recently finished. I really, I really like the books that I read, but I have thoughts on them. I recently went to the Dallas Arboretum over the weekend. Well, not this weekend, but I went there. And when I was there, I was reading one book, and I had plans to read the next. And so now I am done with both books, and I wanted to kind of talk about it. So, hi guys. So I wanted to talk about a book that I just finished reading, a book I am currently reading, and a book I hope to pick up right after. So I just finished reading The Sleepless by Jen Williams. Jen Williams wrote Night Rain, and if you've read Night Rain, you know she writes really weird stuff, and Night Rain was really weird, and The Sleepless is kind of like weird, but not as weird as Night Rain. It's much on the younger side, so it's not really, it's young adult pretty much. It's also not out yet. I was lucky enough to get an ARC. I requested in NetGalley, so I will leave a Goodreads review for that book if you care to read it. But yeah, so the book that I'm currently reading now would be Grave Empire by Richard Swan. Richard Swan is a very prolific writer. I don't need to say too much. I rave about him a lot on my channel. But he's pretty good, and he is like, he's Grimdark. Most of his books are kind of horror fantasy, which I haven't seen much of that. Like, the way I like my fantasy, and then he adds horror elements into it, fantastic. So I'm currently like, I'm not halfway, but I'm a couple pages in, so let's see how that goes. And a book that I'm looking to pick up right after, will be The Devils by Joe Abercrombie, which, again, if you know our Lord Grimdark, he is fantastic in writing grimdark and gray characters that you actually come to root for. So The Devils came out earlier this year, and I don't know too much about it. I know it's kind of like a quest, and there's like some monks and some kind of stuff, supernatural beings. So I'll probably do a review of Grave Empire and The Devils once I'm done, because they're both kind of grim dark. So I want to see the contrast between the stories and the writing, just to see which one I enjoyed the most. But I think that's going to be really hard, because I like Richard Swan, and I do like Joe Abercrombie. So we'll see. Probably will be a tie. Who knows? But yeah, thank you. Bye. At that time, was reading Grave Empire. I have finished Grave Empire, and then I picked up The Devils literally right after, and I read The Devils, and so I decided to do a video about my reading. Okay, so if you've listened to me talk, I have talked about Grave Empire, which is by Richard Swan, where he wrote The Empire of the Wolf. And The Empire of the Wolf is like 3 books: The Justice of Kings, The Tyranny of Fate, and The Empire something something. In that series, we follow this time period where one man was literally the law. Like, he's the judge, the jury, the executioner, that kind of thing. And in that world, they the magic in that world is kind of like has to do with the afterlife. And so this book is set in the same kind of world, where they are dealing with the afterlife. And again, this book is set like maybe 2,000 years after the events of the first trilogy. Maybe not 2,000 years, but maybe 200 years, something like that. Von Volt, who we followed in the first trilogy, obviously is not known here. I mean, he is kind of mentioned, but not in any capacity or any way. Now, do you need to read the first trilogy before you can read this? Yes and no. The reason why I say yes is because in this book, we're not so, like, he writes the book like you're already familiar with the world and the magic. So it's not really like an introductory kind of book, but it just starts off and you're just like following the book. Whereas if you've read the first trilogy, you already know, oh, okay, yeah, it's this kind of magic, that kind of thing. So I would not strongly, but it doesn't take away from the enjoyment of this one. But I would say, yeah, read the first trilogies. Those really give you a lot of context and backstory into stuff that's happening here. Now, in this book, we follow three main point of views. We follow Renata, who is like an ambassador to the Merman, which we didn't have mermaids in the first trilogy, so that's something different. So we follow Renata, we follow Peter, who's a soldier, and we also follow Sir Van Odenberg. Let me see if I give me a sec. I just want to make sure I said his name correctly. Um, yeah, Oldenburg. So we follow Renata, Oldenburg, and Peter. On Renata's side, Renata works for like the Empire, the Hoganates, and they get this group of monks who come up to the government city, whatever, and they're like, hey, we specialize in the afterworld or afterlife, and we realize that we've lost contact, and in reviewing our texts or books or whatever, we realize that this might be linked to something called the Great Silence, and this might be deadly for the whole world. So we need to investigate. So the plan is, well, like they all come up with a plan to go to the mermaid or merman because they have more history, they're older, and they might just know something more because the empire is stumped. Like they don't know anything about dark magics. And that's something that's a bit of a difference from the first trilogy where magic is encouraged, at least for the justices. Here it's actually banned, like dark magic. And so they kind of shot themselves in the foot because now they don't know anything and no one is like well versed in knowing what's happening. So they have to go to the merman. So that's one journey. And then we follow Peter is a soldier that's conscripted to go fight in this far, far place. He doesn't want to go, but then he, has no choice, and then he's conscripted, so he has to go. But then his story kind of reads like the Soldier Son trilogy, where he's in this part of this platoon or group of soldiers, and there is like creepy things that are happening to them, like they're hearing screams at night, there's like stuff going on and they just can't figure it out. It strongly gives me that vibe from the Soldier Son trilogy. And then we quickly realize that something very, very sinister is going on, and Peter is like smack in the middle of that. And so I don't want to give any spoilers, but somehow his story is actually really sad because he kind of is like trying to investigate the reason why there's like the disturbances and something happens. So that's Peter. And then we follow Sar von Odenberg, who is like a Senate member, but he has his own like personal reasons where he's involved or dabbling in dark magics, which, like I previously said, is banned, right? And he's literally part of the Senate. So he's doing something he's not supposed to do. So he goes on. And then they have this enemy, the Celuria. I'm not saying that name well, but Sir Van Oldenburg is trying to maybe establish communication with the enemy of the Empire. And so he then goes on this journey to try to reach or visit those people. But then weird stuff is happening and he encounters something like that, and so he has to I don't know, he's able to do some things that you're just like, this is why human beings are like their own downfall, pretty much. Like that dude, he's a dumbass. That's all I'm gonna say. So so yeah, so that's kind of like the 5-page synopsis of the summary of this book. It's super interesting. I do have to note that I did not like any of the characters. Maybe Peter, but Renata was so annoying. She wasn't likable as a character, and she behaved really weird. Which I mean, Helena in like the first trilogy was written really well. So I don't know, like I just didn't like her for some. The way she came off on paper was a brash and just rude somehow. So I wasn't really rooting for her. Van Odenberg is just like the worst ever. So maybe Peter was the one that I think was still kind of okay. So it was a really good read. I definitely want to continue on whenever he does come out with the second book, because I like the first trilogies, and this is also very interesting in that we still are dabbling with the spirits or the things that we kind of fought in the first trilogies, but like a different blend or dimension. So yeah, that's Great Vampire by Richard Swan. So on to The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. So The Devils, we follow Brother Diaz. Now this is kind of set in like a Rome-ish kind of background where we are following Brother Diaz is a monk in like a monastery, and he is summoned to the sacred city, which in this case would be something like a Rome. And when he is summoned, he thinks like he's going to be anointed and like be promoted to maybe like a priest, or I don't know, whatever the ranks are. But he quickly realizes that that's not the case. The Cardinal Zeska is like, hey, I need you to run an errand for me, and you know, if you do it, you'll be greatly rewarded. Although this errand or this mission doesn't come without its challenges, and you know, we need to fight fire with fire, we need to fight evil with evil. He's like, Ella, that's not what I said. Ma'am, what's going on? Like, hello. So then she tells him like, hey, there's, you know, you will be ordained a priest, and your congregation are going to help you in this mission. And the mission really is to escort a young girl called Alexia to Troy. So think of the sacred city like a Rome, and they have to travel from Rome to Troy. I don't know the distance, don't quote me on that, but I'm just trying to give you like a visual of, you know, the journey that Brother Diaz has to take. So Brother Diaz is like, okay, who are the people that are going with me on this trip? And we get to find out that he's going with a vampire, a werewolf, an elf, a cursed person, and a missionary or mercenary lady-ish. And they all have to, and of course the Alexia girl, and they have to escort her safely. Now whenever they don't even like leave the sacred city, like in like 2 minutes they're attacked. They're attacked and they have to fight this person, and it kind of goes on and on like that. So the book is really about fighting. They have to fight like different people for like 80% of the book, and they do eventually get to Troy and they fight another fight there. And in this world, elves are like the bad people, so they are like the human eating kind of category bad people, which I'm like, that's a twist. So, and the savior is a woman. Like I said, the church in this book is modeled kind of like loosely around like the Catholic Church. So that's interesting. So, I did not really like The Devils because I felt like it was too wordy. Things were repeated a lot. It was funny, you know, there were parts where I definitely had like a dry chuckle. But the humor wasn't like 100% like, oh my God, like laughing, you know, uncontrollably. It was like, oh, that was a bad impression. But you get the point. That was a very bad impression, but you get the point. And then there was so much crass language and repetition of the crass language like 1 million times. It was not the best. So, and it was predictable. I don't know, but like the first chapters, the one guy, I was like, yeah, that's a bad guy. Like you can't tell me nothing. And then yep, he was actually a bad guy. Though there were some other twists that we get to find out at the end, and I was like, oh okay, I definitely didn't see that coming. But the first, I was like, yeah, that guy, he's a bad guy. And he was a bad guy. So I felt like it was predictable to an extent, which doesn't give crafty or clever. It literally was just a story like here's bad guys that you're gonna fight. You just need to, fight the bad guys and get to the. And so that's how I kind of felt. So it wasn't bad, but it was just not. It was missing something, to be quite honest. So let's get into it. What are the differences and what are the similarities between these two books? Let's go. So, uh, Grave Empire is more of a diplomatic nature where Renata is an ambassador between two nations that are like, and when I say two nations, I mean the Hogganate and the Mermaid people. Whereas this is more like a Catholic Church schism because we have the Eastern Church and then we have the other church and they're trying to, breach. So Troy is like is ruled by the Eastern Church, and then the other church that's in the sacred city is trying to establish a partnership, and that's why they want to put Alexia on the throne so that way the church will become one. So this is more a religious type of background, while this is more like a I don't want to say political ish kind of background, that kind of thing. This is more into people and how people are evil and they're just not nice people. Whereas this is more, I mean, same teams, but there's also that afterlife ghost kind of thing that's going on here. There's like not magic in this. Like I said, we have the werewolves and the thing. So it's literally a werewolf is gonna be a werewolf. A vampire is a blood sucking vampire. So that's why I'm like, there's no like zero-ish magic in this because well, okay, actually let me take that back. There is kind of like a magic in the fact that the Pope of the church, they don't call it the Catholic Church, do they? I'm not sure. I can't remember if it's called the Catholic Church in this book, but the Pope in the book, she does have some kind of magic, and she is believed to be the second coming of Christ. Literally, and she is a maybe 8-year-old girl or 10-year-old girl. So very weird. Very different. The main evil in this book is I want to say the elves, but not really, because I'm guessing like the book 2 would then maybe be more into like the elves. But here it's just more people trying to stop Alexia from becoming the Queen of Troy. So, and here is an entity called the Great Silence or something else. I don't know the exact name, but there is a supernatural entity that is literally trying to end the world. So that's a bit different. We have more humor in this than this. This one doesn't really have a lot of humor. It's just really straight story. This one has a lot of jump scares where you're like, oh my god. It's a bit it's horror. It's a bit scary. And it's atmospheric. You kind of feel that building sense of dread, like oh my god. So this one, it's a little scary. This one doesn't have any jump scares, doesn't really have any horror. I mean, when I say jump scares, I mean like you're like, oh my god, but here, I mean, there is some parts where you could consider it a jump scare, but again, it has to do with the fighting. So I'm like, yeah, I mean, you can kind of, it's fighting, like you can kind of see it coming. So this one is just really, fighting, jumps, fighting scenes, battle scenes. This one is more, like at the, something's happening. You can't really tell what's happening. Here, there's a quest to the merman to find out more about the Great Silence. And here is a quest to crown Alexia as the Queen of Troy. So I think that's really like the differences, and I think I said some similarities. So yeah, that's really kind of like the differences between the books. Each on its own, stands up. Really fantastic. The writing is good. It's. I mean, these are known authors. I don't need to say too much. So the stories they are different, but they are kind of similar in some themes. But yeah, they're kind of different. This one, I don't know. Like, would you? I guess it's grim dark ish. It just had a lot of crass language and like just I don't know. But this one is definitely the horror book for sure. If you're like you want something that has like horror-ish vibes or something like that, definitely go for this. While this one is more like a questy kind of like, hey, let's, literally it's like a quest and you have to beat the bad guy to level up or to get along in the quest, and then we get to the end of the quest and it's like, oh, okay, that's the end of the book. So and oh, one thing I will say is, I think I mentioned it before, but none of the characters in these books were the best. They were all like bad. Like I don't want to say bad people, but like Alexia was a thief, and here Baron, Alexia was a thief, and then we just had like all very questionable kind of characters that were not really like your typical like, oh, chosen one or that kind of thing. Exactly. That's the point I was trying to make is you don't have any like good person that's like, oh, I'm a chosen one. No, they are all questionable people. Even Brother Diaz. Brother Diaz was questionable. Like he did something that I was like, oh, okay. Brother Diaz, we ain't so yeah, but I really enjoyed reading these books. They were very interesting. Not 5-star books, unfortunately, which it's half and half. Sometimes the first book in a trilogy is like, oh my god, and sometimes the first book is like, I would be okay to read the second books, and sometimes it's like, yeah, I'm not going forward. So this is more in the middle where I'm like, yeah, I would maybe want to read the next books in the series. More Grave Empire than the Devils though. But yeah, let me know if you've read any of these two books. What were your thoughts? Which ones did you really like? Which ones did you not like? I mean, would you continue on in the series? Yeah, but that's my review for Grave Empire and the Devils. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.